I think in a certain way, and I hope I can say this to you in a couple of months, I think in a certain way, maybe our best work has been on what we've done with COVID-19.
That was Donald Trump just yesterday talking to David Muir. And during the conversation, his self-assessment in response to coronavirus is excellent. He thinks he's done a wonderful job, even as hundreds of thousands of Americans are expected to die from this virus. Even though there's evidence indicating that Trump was warned about the severity of the virus in January and did absolutely nothing, even though more than 1 million Americans have already contracted the virus, he thinks he's done a stellar job. Let's play that video in more context and see if, there's any accuracy to what he has to say.
In a certain way, maybe our best work has been on what we've done with COVID-19, but we haven't been treated properly. Not me, the Army Corps of Engineers, FEMA, the medical people, the police, the nurses, everybody, even the doctors, they haven't been treated properly. The job they've done is a miracle. We're low on morbidity. We're #1 on testing. We're #1 again on ventilators and everything. Not #1. We're #1, and there's no number 2 through 10. We're way ahead of every other country in the world. And very important, so important. I think we're doing very well in vaccines, and we're doing very well therapeutically.
Again, let me give you some facts to counter all the lies that he told in that video. The administration, according to Politico, struggled to ramp up widespread coronavirus testing. I mean, everyone with a brain knows this at this point, but I just want to provide this point again, especially in the outbreak's early days. And the president himself has repeatedly promoted dangerous and untested remedies, including suggesting that Americans ingest or inject themselves with disinfectants. And as we all know, prior to that, he was promoting the use of hydroxychloroquine as a treatment for coronavirus, even though there was very little scientific data backing up the impact of that drug or the effectiveness of that drug. In fact, scientists have stopped using it in tests for coronavirus patients because so many people developed permanent heart conditions or died from using it. So he's been a complete and utter disaster. But John, he thinks he's done a great job. It's actually just everyone being mean to him that's the problem here.
I know. I'm glad that he does at least care a little bit about the victims of this crisis. Unfortunately, he thinks that he's the victim of this crisis. Like, does anyone think that if it was still Barack Obama and 73,000 people had died of Ebola, let's say it was his pandemic, 73,000 people have died, that like Sean Hannity would be like, you know what? Got to give it to the president. He really nailed this one. I think it's his finest work, actually. No, nobody thinks that. It is that old thing about one death being a tragedy and, 1 million deaths being a statistic that we do not have. We have the simian monkey brains that can't actually imagine what's going on. I mean, so far today, today's not over, 1,850 new deaths have been reported from the corona just today. Like, think about the crises that we remember presidencies for. Like, Katrina. Yeah, we're going to get that every 2 days. For months now, we're going to have another Katrina worth of deaths. Like Hurricane Maria doesn't get talked about nearly enough, but that was absolutely devastating. Every 2 days, we're going to pass a Hurricane Maria. 9/11, every 34 hours, we're going to pass a 9/11 of dead Americans. And as I've said a million times from the beginning, there were always going to be people who died of coronavirus, but it could have been far, far better if he cared at all. And I don't just mean looking back. Hindsight is enough, especially because we were right on this from the very beginning. But we know it is only going to get worse from here on out for at least the next month, maybe 2, maybe 3. And he doesn't care. He is not only not doing anything, he is actively disarming us from protecting ourselves. He's encouraging people to do things that will result in far more people dying. We should be unified against him. We've never faced a domestic threat like this in terms of the body count every day. And he's got his defenders, of course. We expect that. These are corrupt people in right-wing media. They don't care. They honestly don't care. But the rest of us should be unified in opposition to this. If not this, then what? Honestly.
Right.
It's
Right.
1850
Well,
today. It's going to be 2000 tomorrow. 2,000 dead in one day.
I know. And it's incredible because this has really provided like the ultimate evidence for the hypocrisy of these anti-abortion conservatives. The ones who claim that they just want to save lives because they think that fetuses are lives, like living, breathing human beings. They equate that with a fetus. Okay, but then they turn around and make justifications for Donald Trump's behavior, his lack of leadership, his incompetence, and that is leading to, again, tens of thousands of Americans dying already. But the number is expected to be in the hundreds of thousands. And it's because of the trajectory we're seeing with this incompetent president who only seems to care about himself and how he can use a crisis to enrich himself and his friends. And that is what's happening. That's happening right now. In fact, the Trump administration pushed out a federal scientist who was trying to do the right thing in, protesting the promotion of hydroxychloroquine as a treatment. And finally, they tried to demote him, and he was eventually just pushed out. And his name's Rick Bright. He reported some of the other wrongdoings of the Trump administration in an 89-page whistleblower report. I just want to give you a few pieces of that because it is important. So Dr. Rick Bright, a federal scientist who had been leading the administration's search for a virus vaccine, made headlines last month when he said he had been demoted after resisting pressure to route resources toward the anti-malaria drug hydroxychloroquine. Now, Bright also alleged in the complaint that he was told to direct millions of dollars in contracts to drug company clients who have ties to Jared Kushner. Bright also said that Alex Azar, who's the head of HHS, the Health and Human Services Secretary, and other officials in his agency had resisted requests for resources to develop drugs and vaccines against the pandemic as early as January. Trump recently ousted several inspectors general responsible for overseeing elements of the administration's virus response. There's just so many missteps that we can list in this story. These are some of the big ones. When Trump says that he's done an excellent job, he's gaslighting the entire country. His defenders and his supporters are gaslighting the entire country. People are dying as we speak. He has not taken it seriously, and we cannot allow people to rewrite what's currently happening. We have to be honest about what's happening, and he doesn't want November to be a referendum on his handling of coronavirus. It absolutely must be, because if that's not, I don't know what would be.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.